Hey, welcome back. We are in the textbook Adobe Photoshop CC book for digital photographers by Scott Kelby. We are working in chapter 7 and we're starting on page 101, which is fixing reflections in glasses. And Scott indicates that he has more requests for how to fix this particular issue than probably all the rest of them combined. And the reason is because it's really hard to fix. If you're really lucky, you get to spend an hour or more desperately cloning, using the clone tool to replace some of these reflected areas. But what he says that in many cases you're just stuck with it. If you're smart, you'll invest an extra 30 seconds while shooting. All right, and so you'll need to plan ahead for this when you're shooting someone with glasses. And so you'd get one shot with the glasses off for each new pose. So again, if you have her posing, for example, in this particular instance, then you would take an identical shot without the glasses. Sounds like a pain, but you've never spent an hour desperately cloning away a reflection. And I agree, that is really a difficult process. So, step 1, before we get into this, we want to make sure that you've read the short intro, which I just read it to you, or you're going to wonder what's going on in step 2. All right, so here's a photo of our subject with her glasses on. You can see the reflection, obviously. Pretty bad on the left side, not quite as bad on the right. The ideal situation is to tell your subject that after you take the first shot, they need to freeze for just a moment while you or a friend, assistant, etc. walk over, remove their glasses. That way they don't change their pose, which they absolutely will if they take off their own glasses. So then take a second shot, and that's the ideal situation. He could see right away that we were going to have a reflection in her glasses, so he told her that the first shot not to move her head. He had someone go over and remove her glasses, and then he took another shot. And she did, however, raise her finger in this shot, but that's evidently not an issue. So, next step, which is step 3 on page 202, with both images open in Photoshop. So I've got one open. We're going to go to File, and we're going to open the secondary image, which is called Eyeglasses 2. And there she is in the identical pose. I don't know how identical it is, but it's close. All right. So we're going to get the Move tool, which is V, or here in your toolbox, and we're going to press and hold the Shift key, and then we're going to click and drag the No Glasses photo on top of the glasses photo. So I'm going to move this over so you can actually see what I'm doing. We're going to get the Move tool, and we're going to hold down the Shift key. We're going to click, drag, and we're going to drop this, we hope, on top of this image as well, which we did. You see, now I have 2 layers. I have her with the glasses and her without the glasses. Now we can take a shortcut and use auto align layers to perfectly match up the 2 shots in the layers panel. You would do a command click if you're on a Mac, control click if you're on a PC on each layer to select both. So a command shift if you're on a Mac, control shift if you are on a PC. And you'll notice that I clicked on both of those layers. Those are both selected. Then you go under the edit menu and you choose auto align layers. You're going to leave the auto option selected, and then we are going to click OK. And in just a few seconds, they will be aligned right on the money. Now, if you did all of this the right way in the studio, then you can jump to the second part of step 6. However, if the shots were taken handheld and a few minutes apart, we wouldn't be able to use the auto align layers. The subject may have moved too much. You might have had handshake, whatever. We'll have to do it manually. We'd have to do it manually. Another reason why setting this up the right way in the studio really pays off. So we're going to take a look at what to do if this happens. You need to be able to see through the top layer so that you can see her eyes on the bottom layer. That way you can line them up. So we're going to start by going to the Layers panel, and we're going to lower the opacity of the top layer to about 50 or 60%. You want to make sure that you're on the top layer, that's selected, then we're going to go up to the opacity. Oh, for heaven's sakes. And we're going to lower it to about 50%. Oh, that's not too bad. All right. Now with the move tool, we're going to position the eyes on the top layer as close as we can get those to the bottom layer. Nice. Step 5 on page 203, if your subject's position changed at all, maybe their head tilted or their shoulders moved, you might need to rotate the top photo so that the eyes match up better. Actually, those eyes match up pretty darn good. So press Command T to bring up the free transform, zoom out to shrink the size of your image window, and pull out the corners of the image window. And that's step 5 is really just if you need to rotate the image. I don't think we need to rotate ours. So once it looks pretty well lined up, we're going to press the return key on your keyboard to lock in your rotation. I'll go through that process, I guess, just so you can see what it is. We're going to press Command T if you're on a Mac or Control T if you're on a PC. That brings up the transform tool, we hope. We're going to zoom out so we can see the corners of the image. Okay, Command T. That's Command T again, and you can see these this bounding box that is around the exterior portion of your image. And when I get close to the edge of one of those corners, you'll see that my arrow turns into a two-headed arrow that's curved. That would allow me to click and drag it in a circular motion to rotate the top layer. All right, so once it looks pretty well lined up in terms of the eyes, let's see if we need to. Okay, and then he says you may need to move your cursor inside the bounding box to position the top layer as well. So if you need to reposition it a little bit by moving it. I'm going to zoom in so I can see her eyes again. Oh, I guess I've got it looks pretty good. So I am going to press Enter or Return to lock in the rotation. And then we're going to raise the opacity of the top layer back to 100%. Now all we really need to do from the image on the top layer is the area that appears inside her frames. So we're going to press and hold Option if you're on a PC, Alt if you're on a Mac, and we're going to click on the Add Layer Mask icon at the bottom of the Layers panel to hide this rotated layer behind a black mask. I want to show you the tool tips, but it is not coming up, so I'll just click on it anyway. And you'll see what happens is that layer is hidden behind the layer mask. And we again see the woman with glasses. Now with your foreground color set to white, you want to make sure that your foreground color is set to white. We're going to get the brush tool, or B, and we're going to choose a small, soft edged brush from the brush picker up in the options bar. So you want a fairly small, soft edged. It's at 0% hardness, so that's pretty soft. And 9 pixels is pretty small, so I think that'll work. And then we simply start painting over the lens on the right, and it reveals the version of her eye without the glasses as seen on the textbook on page 204, and you'll see it in just a moment on my screen. Again, I'm going to get the brush tool. See if I actually aligned it enough. See, I need to go back in and work with aligning that, I can tell. But this is the process that you follow. I think when I rotated it, I messed up the alignment of her eyes. But this is going to get rid of her, of the reflection. And then once the eye on the right is done, do the same thing for the eye on the left. But before I'm going to go back, I'm going to put you on hold here for a moment, and I'm going to go back in my history, and I'm going to realign that eye a little bit better. So I'm going to go up to Window, and I'm going to bring up History, and then I'm going to go back to where I did this move. See what that free transform is. I think I just wanted it to move. And then I'm gonna, yeah, I think, all right, so I will be back in just a moment while I fix this. All right, I'm back, and I've realigned it, and now I need to go back in. I've got the layer mask set, and then we're going to get the brush tool, B, and I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is set to white. The brush size is small and soft edged. And then we are going to, again, brush over this area where the eyes are much better aligned this time. Just getting rid of the reflection here. And what we're doing is revealing the top layer, but just where we want it. And you'll see that little white speck on this layer mask. That is the eye showing through, which is what we've just created there. Then once the eye on the right is done, we can do the same thing for the eye on the left. How cool is that? Oh, didn't want to do that. I think I might even get a little bit smaller brush to go around those edges. But you definitely get the idea. All right, You can also paint your finger back in if you want. Make sure you use a small brush and be careful not to accidentally paint over any of the frames. If you do make a mistake, no biggie, just press X to switch to your foreground back to black, which you'll see that I did get a little bit of that frame erased. So I am going to switch my color to black, and then with the same brush, but with just a little bit smaller size, I'm going to go over that part of the frame that I accidentally erased. And there you go. Remember, this whole process would be made a whole lot easier. You could skip steps 4 and 5. If you remember, once you get a look like this in the studio, you have your subject freeze, remove their glasses, and then take another shot. Then the auto align layers can do its thing, save you a lot of time and trouble. I'm going to do Command 0 so you can see. And I probably would then just need to crop out this . And there we go. Great. I will be back in a moment to work with you on one final exercise, and then I will give you your assignment for this week. Thanks very much.